Hi. Lately there's been so much craziness in the world and so much hatred and anger going down on Facebook. I thought I'd tell a story about two miracles. The first miracle happened in 1975. I had just moved to Fresno, California. I had moved into some dorms and it didn't seem like it was, a right fit. I mean, it was 1975. I had lived in the dorms in Milwaukee where you could go to a beer bar in the dorms, and we had a couple of beer places. And then when I moved to Fresno, there were no bars in the dorms and drinking was 21. Hell, I was going to a bar since 1971 when I was a sophomore in high school because I was 18. Drinking for all bars was 18 back then. So I socialized with people. I smoked weed and stuff to try to be sociable with others in the dorms. And then I moved out of the dorms with this guy, Eric, a psychology major, working on his master's in psychology, who also worked with Jerry's kids on the muscular dystrophy telethon. We got along first really good, but then his girlfriend started staying over and he started bragging about his sex life. And he knew that I was gay. I told him, but I had never been with somebody. I found out a year earlier before I moved to Fresno that I was with someone who was 25 years my senior that I had met at a Catholic church group, and it was a 10-minute thing, and I knew right after it started it wasn't right, even though I knew before we started that I wasn't straight. So anyway, me and Eric didn't get along after all, so there was this kid, Rudy, at the dorms whom I had met, and he was on probation for selling 2 pounds of weed from Florida. And he moved, we got an apartment right next door to Eric's at these same apartments. And then one day, after he moved in, after a while, I found out that he was bisexual, but I wasn't interested in being with him. He was a pretty heavy booze drinker, and he liked smoking a lot of weed, but he was a whiner. So I was not interested in him, and even trying to find out about being with a male through him. Also, I found out that his sister had ratted out the mob and she was under witness protection. So anyway, we did get this apartment, and one day he went to Bakersfield, and while he was Bakersfield for the weekend, I was alone. So I went to Vintage Days at Fresno State, and there was concerts in the park. And there was this guy in his 50s, robot. He had a leather band and a turquoise jewel in the middle of it. And we started rapping and talking, and then after the concert, we seemed to get along, and I told him I lived across the street. He came to my house and helped me with dinner and helped me with taking a bath and getting out. And I thought he might be gay, but bisexual, but he wasn't. I was 21. He was I was about 21, and he was in his 50s. So he said the next day he would be over with his girlfriend. The next day he came over with Candy, and we were at the kitchen table smoking weed and stuff, and then all of a sudden he told me to grab her pussy, and I went, no, I'm gay. I want to be with a woman. So he grabbed my hand, and he was like 6 feet, 250, and kind of burly and strong. He grabbed my hand, I said, no. And to make a long story short, we ended up in my bedroom, all three of us. Well, as time went on, my roommate came home, and after weekend said, we're going to be getting another roommate. And he didn't ask me, and that kind of pissed me off. But another Eric moved in. And then My other roommates, I think that in time they felt intimidated by Robot and was wondering what's he doing with them, but they knew that I was having a relationship with Candy. And they also, Robot had Candy as like a sex slave. He got her when she was 16. She moved out of home. She was in her 30s now, so she was 20 years younger than him. So probably the only person that she had been with, and then she kind of was trained by him. And I had never seen her. My parents, my dad, of course, always treated women with respect and taught us to and stuff. And about this time also, I found out that my mom was coming to visit. And I had just found out recently before this that she had cancer. She had cancer. And so she was starting chemo treatment. So she came to visit, and I was nervous about her meeting Robot, and I had just inherited some money from my grandma Rogers. My mom, who was coming to visit, Joy Murphy Waddell, was my mom since I was about 3.5 years old. My birth mother, Mary Rogers Waddell, passed away when I was 2.5 from bone cancer. Another miracle was that she went to Lourdes, France to pray for me, because when I was 2.5, I was told I would never walk or talk. And when she came back, she died on Good Friday, and I always respected her, and I always knew that without her I would have never existed, so I held her high on a spiritual level, and I couldn't imagine all the pain traveling across the world, being in such pain, to go pray for me. Of course, she prayed for my other brothers, Tom, Mark, and Bob, and my dad, and her mother, and other loved ones, but the main reason why she made the journey was for me. So anyway, my mom was coming to visit. I inherited some money. Robot, I told him I wanted a van, so he bought me a van, but it was a stick shift, and he was going to drive me around. And I inherited a few $1,000s, not a lot, but it was a pretty good-sized amount of money in that day, 40 years ago. And what happened was he said to me he wanted to bring weed back from the coast, sesame and weed, and he wanted to turn my investment into $16 million. I thought, no. How can I explain that to my family and friends, how I got all this money and stuff? And I would have to lie or say goodbye to them, and I didn't want to sell drugs to kids on the street, and not in that $16 million. That was a lot of money. And at this time also going on, my other roommates, they had friends. We had moved to a house who were living in the mountains, and they were selling weed, and they were growing weed, and they were making $100,000 a year. So I really stepped into it, you might say. I was too open for my own good at 21 years old, tried to be, peace, love, California. But that wasn't really the case at all. So anyway, it got crazy, and I would go to the coast with my friend Robot, and we stopped by Clint Eastwood's restaurant. I don't know if he knew Clint, but I suppose he was selling drugs to people that were there. And we made a couple trips to the coast, and we met some people that had a plantation, and they had machine guns guarding their property, and it was pretty heavy. So I imagine they loved seeing a guy with cerebral palsy in the van, stoned, just sitting there. I'm sure they felt real comfortable about that. And then we went to a Doobie Brothers concert, and he beat up some bikers. I'm not sure if they were Hell's Angels or not. So when we left the concert, we jumped in the van and we were driving over 100 miles an hour. We blew up the engine and had to call my roommates to pick us up and tow us back. And also, when I said earlier that my mother was going to come to visit us, she did. She met Robot. He put on a show with a bike on a kickstand, and I'm not sure if he had done stunt work in Hollywood, but with his driving skills he might have, and whatnot. And the thing was like after my mother left, Robot said to me, John, your mother should have sex with another man, but I'll leave her alone. And I thought, you're damn right you will. And I was scared and nervous for her and afraid. So that night after my mom went to the hotel, I went to my friend Eric's and smoked a joint, and I came home, and the phone rang. It was my mom, and she knew that I was stoned. And I tried to hide it and tried to act happy, but I knew that she knew that I wasn't, and she felt bad that I knew that she had cancer and was going for treatments, and I was sad. So anyway, things were just too crazy, and I didn't know if Robot was at first, if he was a CIA or a mobster or whatever, and I thought, this is getting too crazy. And one thing that finally pushed the final straw was we were watching TV one night, and there was a dead body, and I thought, did this guy ever kill anybody? And he looked at me like he read my mind. He said, brother, all you have to do is ask for it, and you got it. I went, whoa! So I just tried to be cool and act like it didn't faze me, and I just, things were just too nuts. And I said one day he came over, and I said, Robot, you take my money. I don't care if I get millions of dollars from selling weed. I've never been about money in my life being my main goal. I said, take it, and he cried, and I doubt that he ever cried much in his life. I had seen him pickpocket people and do certain things, and it was just crazy, so it was best that he went on his way. And then a year later he stopped by and checked in, and then after that I didn't hear from him, and I got a 3-wheel moped and started to live my life again. And I healed myself through music, and I was paranoid to go out, and I took adaptive PE, Fresno State, and took a business law class, and my mom had died, so I was going to fly and learn to live just like she always taught me to believe in myself and do the best that I could. So I did this, and it was weird because I felt sorry that Robot had been shot and killed, but I hoped that he had found peace before he died. And I tried to love him the best I could for survival, and that no one would get hurt, because I never knew if he read my address book. I thought of my family, my friends that were musicians and played instruments, and I used to brag and play music all the time and about them, and I just didn't want anybody to be hurt. Before this, when this all started getting crazy, I prayed to God and said, God, please let nobody be hurt, my family or friends, and if I died or got killed, that was okay as long as nobody got hurt, because I had my own bed and I had to sleep in it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. There's way too much hatred and anger going down on Facebook in 2017. Politics are crazy in America. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day. Bye for now.